Right, the buzzword in technology at the moment is artificial intelligence, and we're here with a couple of extremely intelligent, startup founders in the Indian space. Fluid AI is the name of the company, and we have Abhinav Aggarwal as well as Raghav Aggarwal with us, who are the founders of Fluid AI, to discuss their journey as well as how AI is evolving. Right, it's evolving fairly quickly. So Raghav, let me come to you. Right. How did you all jump upon the chance of AI? How did it all fall into place for you all? How did the product evolve in your mind?
So, Harsh, for us, it was a really interesting journey. Way back when we started this company, we were enamored by the amount of data being generated, but we saw it was really not being used. So we went ahead and said, can we have a technology that can actually absorb this data, do predictions, and also generate stuff out of it? So, our initial work was in predictive AI, but then over the years, we then diversified into generative AI, where AI is actually creating content and is becoming quite exciting.
Right, and Abhinav, if you can tell us, how is the product portfolio evolving right from the start? What was the year in which you all started, if I can ask, and how is the product actually evolving over the last few years, and now how does the product look, and what are the various products that you all have?
Absolutely. No, we started, I think, back in 2012, so it's been some time for us. The vision, though, has always been the same, right? To build an AI that can interact with the human without them coming to know there's a machine at the other end. So it's popularly known as passing the Turing test. And that's the vision. It's been there for day one. I think what's changed is earlier companies would work with a lot of their structured data. So rows, tables of numbers, like an annual report, you just see the balance sheet data, right? Now what organizations are able to do with the latest technologies is work with their unstructured data. So the core offering right now for Fluid is we take all your text data that's there, it could be SOPs, product information, anything else, put it into this one repository, and then we put a GPT on top. So you're interacting with it, and it's almost like a co-pilot for everyone from your support staff to your sales team, to the ops team, to the heads and managers and the CEO of the organization. They're chatting with this one GPT, and it knows everything about them. So they're suddenly being able to ask, hey, what happened about this sale, or how do I reset a customer's password, or what do I do, or content marketing teams are saying, can we write content? So it's evolved to this stage now. It's very human, and it's available across multiple channels like Slack, Teams, WhatsApp. So it's very exciting.
Right, and the other thing that's looking very human is right next to us, Abhinav. Talk to us about this Fluid bot that you all have built.
Absolutely. So, we are a software company, and our core is that we want the technology to reach where you are, right? Which is why we worked on saying, can it be on Teams, can it be on Slack, can it be on phone call as well? And we said, wouldn't it be interesting to have the same technology of Fluid GPT on a physical manifestation like a robot? So imagine this one will walk around with you, it'll interact with you, he's looking at you right now, and then be able to go into a store and say, hey, can I interact with Fluid GPT? And say, customer asks a question, it guides you where what is, and that's the vision behind this one.
Imagine going to a store asking, I'm making pasta primavera tonight, and he's taking you, okay, this is the recipe, let me take you through the store to the different ingredients.
Right, that's pretty cool. So Raghav, take us through a couple of products of yours, if you can.
Yeah, so I think the most exciting product is what Abhinav talked about, right? The co-pilot for the enterprise. Enterprises have a huge amount of data, right? And the problem is, if you're going to search for it, it's not going to come. It's all unstructured. It's like in a shared drive. It's like on someone's PC in someone's email inbox. So what we say is we pull together all this information, and then you can ask a question in a single question and get an English answer. You don't get 10 links like Google. You get a proper answer, and that can be either on WhatsApp, Slack, or Teams. So it becomes a very powerful interface for the entire enterprise.
Right, and is this how AI across the world is developing, or is this something unique that you guys are doing? Because AI globally is developing at quite a fast pace, right? So how is Compete looking at AI, and what are you all doing differently versus the others?
Yeah, so for us, generative AI has obviously been this new arc that's come, and if anyone's used, and everyone's using ChatGPT right now. So ChatGPT is a great knowledge worker when you're just as a consumer talking to it, right? But it has no organizational context. So for instance, if I ask it something about my company today, it won't know, it will just say, I don't know that. So we've added, while we're competing with a lot of Gen AI startups, what we have brought to the picture is taking the enterprise's data and feeding it to the GPT algorithms. So it becomes much more powerful in the kind of communication and the kind of tasks it can take over versus the generic ones.
Understood. And what's the kind of interest that you all are seeing? I mean, we are seeing that at an individual, at a personal level, we're using AI in a much bigger way, obviously, because it's available now freely. But how are organizations looking at the way AI is turning out? What kind of organizations are coming to you all?
Yeah, absolutely. I think organizations, the interest is phenomenal. I think everyone's looking at, like, they all use it at home, right? Like Raghav said. So they're all looking at saying, how do we bring this kind of capability and power to the organization? So people are going pretty aggressive on it. I think banking, insurance, obviously we've seen is always the early adopter when it comes to new technology. So they're definitely number one out there. I think second would probably be someone like a retail and auto manufacturers. There we're seeing a lot of interest in saying how can we change the way we look at our processes, systems. And third, which is always usually the case, right, healthcare, which needs to go a little more slow, steady, kind of test their feet with any kind of new technology. But there also the advantages are there, which is why they are investing themselves quite significantly. I think you will see more commercially available use cases first from the first two industries, and then you'll probably see healthcare start rolling out stuff because their testing period is a lot more.
Right. And what has really changed over the last 6 to 8 months? If I can ask Raghav, so what's changed over the last 6 to 8 months, Raghav, that wasn't the case, 9 months, or wasn't possible 9 or 10 months back, that we're now seeing such a huge chatter around AI? What's really changed?
So I think the paradigm was that AI was always a backroom worker, right? About until a year or two ago, it was always seen as something, oh, it's doing fantastic stuff. But as a front-end consumer, you're not interacting with it. A system is probably giving you its predictions, or you're using Google Maps, but you're not really knowing how it works. It's actually fundamentally an old implementation of AI, right? Now it's come to the front of the room. It's saying, hey, I can help you write a letter. I can help you write an email. It can write a poem, a drama, whatever you want. So the consumer is finally having that one-on-one interaction. So I think it's the interactivity that's come in. It's the chat-based interfaces that have come in, which earlier was sort of hidden away. So, and that's really opened people's mind to the kind of use cases, right? Earlier it was limited to maybe the IT team will take it up. Now people are going up and saying, why am I as a legal professional, why I am as an accounting professional not using it?
Absolutely. We're going to now quiz them on, how this particular technology is going to change businesses and what kind of industries are going to have the largest impact. So let me go straight to it. Raghav, talk to us about what do you feel, which industries are going to have the largest impact in terms of AI?
I think this one is a different game. I don't think so there's one particular industry that's going to have an impact. I think it's a cross-industry impact that we're going to see out here, because frankly, it's not even cross-industry, it's cross-department, right? Everyone has a finance team, everyone has a legal team. So you really can't say that no, there's one industry which is going to be isolated and say, oh, I don't need this doesn't affect my business. Every industry out there is getting infected, and it's up to them to adopt this as soon as possible to have the competitive advantage.
Right. So Abhinav, okay, let me be more direct here. Which is the first industry that you think is going to get disrupted or is already getting disrupted?
I think absolutely. I think the first biggest industry, right, is the whole support side of things. So it's still cross industry, but it's a very specific sector I'm taking across all industries, right? Support is definitely going to change big time, right? Nowadays you have large teams working on the support side, so they're going to get disrupted massively. That's number one. Number two, we're going to see a lot of movement on the content creation copyright side, right? You saw BuzzFeed or other companies that just announced, right, they're laying off a large portion of their staff, and they're seeing their stock price actually move up as a result. So that's going to be a second, the whole content creation game. A lot more content is going to get created with a lot less people being able to do that. So I think that's going to be number two. Number three that we're seeing is that a lot of automation is going to come in across these businesses, right? Because you're going to bring in this level of generative AI automation that you've never seen before. So what you're going to see is industries that charge a lot on this per man hour, right, which is largely your BPOs, IT services guys. they'll see a big change. Now, some might treat it positively and be able to say, okay, now we can make each person more productive and up our margins. Others might get disrupted massively and say, oh, what we were charging per man hour now is suddenly become a machine hour, so it's much cheaper and we can't do the same billings and we're going to lay off a large portion and not adapt to that change. So that's the big industry that I'm seeing here is going to see a lot of action going to happen.
Right, and Raghav, if I can switch over to you. So, you know, Abhinav's highlighted a few changes that are coming through. How does this affect businesses in terms of top line and mid-level EBITDA margins as well as bottom line? And let me be more specific on this front. You work alongside Indian IT cores. We know the TCSs and Infosys of the world. How is this going to change their business model and how is it going to impact their finances, top to bottom line?
So I think the traditional IT services model is now going to be, it's going to hybridize pretty quickly, right? It was all about people. It's going to be people plus AI, and potentially 5-10 years it's going to be AI only as well. So there's going to be this massive change that they're going to sort of have to adapt to. But what I feel is they're secure in one respect is that clients are looking at them to lead them into this, right? Because you need a navigator. It's happening so quickly. There's a lot of governance to be put in place. These algorithms are very powerful, but very, very difficult to work with as well, right? They're not plug and play in an enterprise sort of scenario. So I think what they'll have to do is in the next 3-4 years hybridize, I think, and they're doing that very nicely. And then look at a future which is maybe AI only. And that's going to be very interesting how they adapt there. Right. But I don't see an immediate disruption that's going to hit them.
And I'll add to that question. How quickly do you think this is going to happen?
If you'd asked me this about a year ago, I would say it's a 20 or 30-year game. But now I think it's a 10 or even an 8-year game. Because the way that disruption is happening, there are too many players, right? Earlier there were maybe 2, now there are 10 of them already playing in this game. And so much is also happening on the open source community side. So there's just a whole innovation bonanza that's taking place.
Right. So Abhinav, what are the industries which are going to be or have lower impact? Say for example, right off the bat in my mind, would a tourism have a large impact? Because now you have the likes of the VR coming in. Yep. Would you still want to travel? Would you not want to travel? How does technology and industry and which industries will have a slightly lower or a minimal impact?
Absolutely. I think the industries that definitely see low impact are anything that's physical manufacturing oriented, right? That wave of humanized robots with the same algorithms in them will probably take 5-10 years. So they're pretty safe as of now. So anything that does a hardcore manufacturing, retail will kind of not get that disrupted, right? Like Raghav said, this technology is becoming very democratized as well with real-time, and startups like us are innovating very quickly to bring it to consumers and customers very fast. So I think all the disruption will be at the TCS, Infosys, the big IT giant side, and that's where to see which side they end up on.
Right. And Raghav, you know, probably the last question on this particular segment, but talk to us about how businesses are evolving. What goes first in terms of an investment if a business wants to invest in AI? What's the first entry level piece of operation or back-end work that goes into AI, which then moves into the larger organization?
So, I think the lowest hanging fruit, and that's where we are seeing a lot of traction, is obviously support, right? Customer support, employee support. That's where there's a lot of unstructured documentation which can help. But post that, what I feel is there's it's not going to be a linear sort of insertion in the organization. Legal, accounting, finance, HR, all of these functions can use it as of today itself. So I think it's more of a big bang approach that we are seeing out there, because no one sort of wants to be left behind. No department wants to be like, yes, we'll wait for it to sort of seep through. It's big bang. So people are like, okay, maybe there's a lead department like customer support which takes the lead, but 3 months later, let's do these other 4 teams as well, which need it immediately.
Right. Okay, one more. What do you feel are going to be the factors that are going to differentiate the men from the boys in this particular space now going forward? What is it that is going to short determine who the winners are going to be among the others?
Absolutely. I think the clear thing that we're seeing is there are 2 forms of organizations that are emerging. One that are investing heavily in saying, let's deploy Gen AI tech, let's learn it, let's figure it out, let's see where the value additions are. And those ones are going to definitely be the leaders of tomorrow, because the philosophy is humans aren't going to get replaced by an AI, but they're going to get replaced by other humans that leverage AI. The same goes for organizations. We're seeing this other form of organizations emerge that are kind of being like the pigeon. They're shutting their eyes. They're saying that we'll play a waiting game. We'll see where the industry goes. But if you wait 6 months, 1 year, the way this technology is progressing, you're going to probably get left in the dark, because you're going to be very late on the baton to figure out where it adds value to your organization. So I think those are the ones that really need to ensure that they stay current, they try the tech, they deploy it, see where the value is, and then they double down over there.
Got it. Abhinav, talk to us about how it's going to change the role of employees in this environment.
That's a great question, Harsh. And if you go back, you see the traditional way of doing anything was, you'd go to Google and you'd search. So the approach was always to use a search-based model to solve any challenge that you have. Now it's moving to something called a thought-based model, where the system actually doesn't just give you sources, it gives you the answer. It can think with you almost and kind of direct you in the right direction. And that's going to change the way people work quite considerably, right? They're going to now be able to almost sit with an AI assistant for most of the tasks that they do and kind of give the initial thought to it and say, I need this done. I need a blog created for X. I need this report to be created for my management. And it's going to sit with you and assist you and kind of guide you through it, and you'll say, no, this doesn't look that great. Let's change this paragraph, or let's change this representation. So it's almost like everyone's going to have this AI worker working with them, and that's where it's going to be a very different world that is suddenly going to enter.
Right. And Raghav, if I can come to you. So, very famous Keanu Reeves movie, The Matrix, yes. Right? And then we have the father of AI quit Google. Okay. What kind of risks does this bring in your view?
So obviously, it's powerful technology. It's really powerful technology. And what we've got to be ready for is two things, I think. One is governance now and adaptability later. I think that's the two things that you'll sort of have to get now, because a lot of AIs are working in this black box, wherein we need to sort of, the consumers of AI now to see, okay, why is it saying so, or how is it arriving at a decision? What are the data points it studied? What is the data that went in? Are there inherent biases in that data? So I think that's where government needs to work. Organizations who use it need to sort of have governance internally as well, so that it doesn't go berserk. And see, it's going to evolve now. It's the genie's out of the bottle. So I think later on we need to be ready as the human race to see whether there will be new forms of co-living AIs with us. Will they be more and more powerful? Where does the human condition lie then? Does everyone get an income? Do we work only 4 hours a week? Those things will happen now. And we need to be ready for that, because if you're not going to adapt, the bad actors are anyway having access to this technology. So we might as well absorb it and adapt and move on.
Understood. But Abhinav, how large is the risk? If I can try and, is the risk real? And how do you limit or reduce this kind of a risk to humanity as a whole, the way I look at it?
Absolutely. So I think as of now, if you look at these models, even though they're so complex, and I've studied and worked with them for quite some time, if you really dumb it down to what they do, they're predicting the next word to fill in, and they're kind of doing this regressively. And so far, they've started kind of exhibiting this slightly more intelligent, emergent behavior when they're doing this. So you're safe as of now, right? Because a model that's just outputting text, you can kind of shut it off at any point in time. The next generation that everyone's working on is, right now it's prompt driven, right? You give a thought, it gives you an answer back. The next generation that everyone's working on, including at our own labs, is that you give it a thought, it comes up with its own thought, right? So it's like spontaneously deciding that, hey, I need to write these 5 blogs because my goal is to increase sales. So I'm going to do this. That's when it starts to get a little more risky, because now the AI is coming up with its own thoughts. So it can come up with a thought that, hey, like you see in the movies like The Matrix, right? That the humans aren't doing the right things, maybe I need to take actions. Absolutely. You're still safe because it's still running on a computer, you switch off the computer. But now you're going to start connecting this to systems, right? You're going to start saying, hey, you can publish this post directly on Medium for me. You can go ahead and make this decision for me. You can connect to my connected car and tell it to switch on or off for me. And that's when this combination of having a thought plus connectivity where it can take actions on your behalf, that's when it becomes risky. And that's where the governance will need to start coming in to say that, okay, like how much action can an AI take, because it's going to catapult very fast, right? You're going to start giving it control. And then the last generation is that you're going to actually allow it to become a physical manifestation. Right? You're going to put the same engine into a physical robot, and then suddenly it can physically harm you. It's stronger than you, it's physically more advanced than you, and it can start working on self-preservation. That's when you can reach like a Matrix or a Terminator type of situation. So those, at least what we studied, those are the 4 layers that you'll go through when it starts to get dangerous. Right now we're at layer 1, so we're still safe.
And how quickly will that evolve?
I think we assumed that this layer 1 advancement would take, like Raghav said, 10, 20 years. It's happened already.
Very quickly,
yeah,
yes.
And then the last 6 months have shown that it's advancing even faster. So I would say this layer 1, layer 2, you're already going to reach in 6 months to a year's time, where it's going to start taking decisions on your behalf. It's going to have thought, it's going to be able to action your thought as well. That's not less than 1 year away. People are already starting doing pilots. I have pilots internally where I can ask it to do something and it does it. So that's only 1 year away. The physical robots, they're already being developed, like Tesla has one, there's a few other companies, Boston Dynamics is doing some great work there. That's about 3 to 5 years away, where they become readily available at scale. So it's a much more crunch timeline than the original, for sure.
Got it. And Raghav, if I can switch back to the employees, right? So what should a typical employee do in terms of, say, I mean, ChatGPT got a 96% on the bar exam, right? So what should an employee do to make sure that he is not phased out of redundancy, and actually he is using the AI for his benefit, to leverage on it to do work more efficiently rather than get phased out as a person?
No, that's a great question, Harsh. And I think what's going to happen is reskilling and upskilling has always been part of the game. It's just more and more important, and it has an AI element to it now. So I think it's again a question of adaptability. If people are ready to adapt, you're going to see role destruction happen much more quicker. But also there are going to be facets, I feel. Physical labor, that's going to remain for a lot of period of time, and that's good for a country like India, where a lot of us are still involved in core manufacturing or agriculture, etc. And especially the higher level jobs, right? So you need to either move up or down. The middle is where AI is sort of really attacking quite aggressively, right? So if you go higher, if you go to the more creative fields, or you're synthesizing, creating, you're an editor of AI generated text, right, that's all there. And new jobs are coming, right? Prompt engineer, that was not a job we knew about.
Correct.
Or a mid-journey artist. So these kind of jobs are coming up as well. So you need to be aware about where the market is heading as well.
Right. So how should one make that pivot, right? You'll have a fresh new set of skills to learn, Abhinav. Yeah. How should one go about learning those skills? From a viewer standpoint, our viewers want to know, how should they pivot? How should they adapt?
Absolutely. So this is a very interesting concept. It's called the half-life of a job. It just means that in how many years do half the jobs become redundant. Currently that half-life is at about 50 years, right? So if you go back in time, someone who was taking care of horses and managing the saddles, when cars weren't there, that was a big job, and suddenly cars became completely redundant. So what I think a viewer needs to really look at is study the market and analyze, okay, the half the jobs are going to become redundant. Which are those? We outlined a few, like support, content creation might change quite significantly, copywriting, any kind of viewing of large documents and kind of finding information from them. Even for analysts, that role is going to become a lot faster, right? They're going to be able to analyze one document or one transcript call in hardly a few minutes, as opposed to, let's say, 10, 20, 30 minutes.
Correct. We saw that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you need to start now seeing which are the jobs that are going to come up. So like Raghav said, prompt engineering is going to become great. Being able to leverage AI to be more productive in different ways. So I think the best way to skill yourself is start interacting with a lot of these technologies. Learn prompting. There's quite a few good resources on it. We launched a book called Bridging the AI Gap. It was written completely by an AI, one of the first to become the international bestseller. So read a lot of books around how you can actually interact with the AIs and make the most advantage of it, and try and go into your day job every day and try and make it easier by leveraging AI, because the ones that can do that will 5x their productivity and then maintain their importance in the organization that they are in.
Right. And what sources should one seek when one is looking for making these pivots?
I think what's going to be interesting is there's obviously a lot of industry specific tools that are coming out. So if you see Adobe Photoshop launch Firefly, which helps graphic designers do their job much better, right? So I think within each industry, you sort of need to go deeper and see what's sort of changing your industry, what's helping your industry. OpenAI's toolset is obviously another great place to sort of interact with. But I think each industry is sort of going to take its own sort of turn out here.
Understood. But so we've discussed a plethora of aspects and angles around AI, right? And the way I believe that Abhinav and Raghav are really concluding is that, of course, this technology is going to be disruptive, but it's already here on our doorstep. So one piece is the legal angle, the regulatory angle, where the government has to come in and regulate some of these AI and the manner in which AI is actually built. And of course, the second piece is how we need to pivot. And to that, Abhinav and Raghav are being quite cautious by telling us that we really do need to go back to our day jobs and pivot. So that's where I'm going right up.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.